For the sake of her dream guy, Joanna, my fiancée of many years, abandoned me in the countryside and left me there to fend for myself, and 3 years later she came back with that same dream guy to pick me up, looking at me as if she were doing charity work and saying, "It's been 3 years. Even a dog should have learned its lesson by now." Then adding in that righteous tone I once knew too well, "I'm doing this for your own good. If you don't change your temper, don't even dream of becoming my husband." Everyone thought I would cry, that I would pour out the pain and longing of those 3 years and cling to her desperately. But I only smiled calmly and said, "Sorry, miss, I'm already married." I had just finished shooting some footage and was on my way back when I saw a dozen luxury cars parked outside the old Moo family estate. Cars I hadn't seen in years, and as I approached the house the noisy chatter inside reached my ears. It's been 3 years. I wonder what that young Master Joel has turned into. Probably just some countryside bumpkin by now, right? Yeah, young master my ass. He was just an orphan crashing at the Moo family's house acting like he's some kind of heir. Exactly. He doesn't share a drop of blood with the Moo family. If it weren't for their kindness, he'd be worse off than a beggar. Joel always had a bad temper. I bet after these 3 years he's finally realized he was wrong. Then a deep male voice interrupted the mockery and the yard fell briefly silent. A voice I recognized instantly. It was Anthony, her precious golden boy, the one Joanna Moo brought into the Moo household 3 years ago after his father died in a car accident. The same time I was sent away to the countryside. I still remember her words that day. "Anthony just lost his family and you're still speaking so viciously. He's always been kind to you, don't you have a heart? When you learn to behave when you grow up a bit, then I'll let you come back. Otherwise stay there forever. I'm doing this for your own good. If you don't change that attitude, don't ever hope to become my husband." For my own good, what a noble excuse, because doing it for my own good meant siding with Anthony no matter what, meant dumping me in the middle of nowhere and forgetting I even existed, even though she knew perfectly well I was already on the edge, barely holding on at the time, and now hearing her say it again only made it feel laughable. Someone said, "Good thing Anthony was generous enough not to press charges. If it were me, I would have locked him up for a few years at least." And Anthony replied softly, "Joel is still technically part of the Moo family," his voice trailing off, only for someone else to say, "Anthony, don't be sad. That idiot's already been punished. What do you guys think he'll do when he sees us? That's obvious. He'll break down crying, beg to go back with Joanna groveling on his knees." And Joanna snorted coldly, repeating, "It's been 3 years. Even a dog should have learned its place by now. If not, he can keep rotting out here." Which made the group laugh in agreement. Some even saying they hoped I hadn't learned, so they'd never have to see me again, because just looking at my pitiful bootlicking face disgusted them, until someone hesitantly asked, "But I remember you two still have an engagement, right?" And Anthony turned toward Joanna with hope in his eyes while she replied flatly, "Engagement? Depends on how he performs." Making Anthony look away disappointed, and at that point I couldn't help but burst out laughing, not even trying to hide it as the sound carried on the gentle wind into the courtyard and startled a group of tiny turtles basking there, drawing attention as someone near the door turned and called out in shock, "Joel!" And suddenly all eyes were on me, voices overlapping. "That's really Joel? No way. Wasn't he supposed to be some hillbilly by now?" And I understood their surprise, because in their minds 3 years in the countryside should have turned me into a dust-covered, weary-faced farmer. But I wasn't that. I wore a dark-colored tech jacket with matching sneakers fresh off the season's trend list and brand-new casual shoes. A high-end camera hanging around my neck and a coffee cup in my hand. Not a trace of a bumpkin about me, while Joanna's gaze settled on me with a flicker of surprise as she called my name in a distant tone, nothing like the warmth she used with Anthony. And I remembered how I once used to be upset by that and even argued with her about it, though not anymore, so I simply greeted her politely, "Miss Moo," taking a sip of my coffee, which made her frown slightly and say, "Only 3 years and you're acting like a stranger. I'm your fiancé. That's how you talk to me. Looks like 3 years wasn't long enough. You still haven't learned your lesson. If you keep this up, I'll really call off the engagement." And I glanced at her indifferently, wondering what made her think I would still have feelings for her after 3 years, because I became an orphan at the age of 10, and it was Grandpa Moo who brought me into the Moo household and announced my engagement to Joanna right then and there, and from that moment on I believed she would be my future wife, so I let myself fall for her, little by little, basking in the warmth of her kindness. When our love felt like it had reached its deepest point, she told me she loved me too. She said she wanted to be my wife. Then Anthony arrived at the Moo house, and everything changed. I watched, helpless, as the care that once belonged to me was taken away piece by piece. I saw how unconditionally she favored him. I argued with her, gave her the cold shoulder, even picked fights with Anthony on purpose. Every single time, without exception, it ended the same way, scolding and rage all directed at me. Then one day, Anthony's watch went missing. Joanna came straight to me and demanded an explanation. Yes, I didn't like Anthony, but I wasn't shameless enough to steal. Especially not at that time. My cat, whom I had raised for 8 years, was hospitalized and dying. That cat had been Joanna's birthday gift to me. She said it was a symbol of our love. To care for it, I had rented a place near the pet hospital and hadn't returned to the Moo house in a while. I stood tall and confronted her. But somehow, the missing watch was found in an old jacket of mine that I hadn't worn in ages. Joanna slapped me across the face. Then she shattered a bracelet, one my parents had chosen long ago as a future wedding gift for their daughter-in-law. I stared at the bracelet, broken into pieces on the floor, and something inside me snapped. I lunged at Anthony like a madman. In the chaos, he fell down the stairs. After that, Joanna sent me away to the countryside. And my cat didn't survive that summer. I stayed silent in the present, and Joanna's face grew more and more impatient. Just as she was about to lash out again, I slowly raised my left hand and showed her the ring on my finger. "Sorry, Miss Moo," I said. "I'm already married." Chapter 3. The moment she heard those words, Joanna's frown deepened. Anthony stepped forward and draped an arm around her shoulders, looking at me as if I were some mischievous younger brother. "Joel, you shouldn't lie," he said with a chuckle. "I heard from Joanna that she cut off your credit cards. So how have you been living all these years? You're still young. Don't let some sleazy woman take advantage of you." As he spoke, Joanna's gaze finally dropped to my clothes, and her expression slowly turned cold. She was clearly reminded that she had cut off all my financial support. In their eyes, someone without Moo family money had no right to be dressed like this. The small crowd around them looked at me with open disdain. One of them sneered, "Joel, don't tell me you've got yourself a sugar mommy out here in the sticks. What? Did some lonely old widow from the village take you in?" Joanna's face darkened instantly. Her eyes burned with rage as she glared at me. "Joel, are you even a man? You want to throw away your dignity, fine. But don't drag the Moo family name down with you." From her tone, it was obvious she believed I had become some rich woman's side piece. "But Joanna," I looked at her steadily. "After all these years we've known each other, even if you don't like me anymore, don't you at least know what kind of person I am? In your eyes, do I really look like someone who'd sell myself for money?" I swept my gaze over the group, my voice turning cold and sharp. "I should be the one asking if any of you have any dignity left. You came all this way just to act crazy in my front yard. I'm not like you losers. Even without anyone's help, even without the Moo family, I, Joel, can still live just fine." Joanna clearly hadn't expected me to talk back. She froze for a second, stunned. Then she let out a mocking laugh. "Oh really? You without the Moo family? Joel, don't be ridiculous. I know exactly what you're trying to do. This is all just to get my attention." I couldn't help but laugh, genuinely baffled. Does this woman even understand human language? Trying to get your attention? You think you're worth it? I flung the coffee in my hand straight at her. She wasn't prepared. The liquid splashed across her flawless face. "Ah, Joanna!" Anthony rushed forward and pulled her into his arms. But she shoved him away, wiped the coffee from her face, and raised her hand to slap me. I stepped back quickly and sneered. "What? The Moo princess wants to start slapping people again?" Her hand froze midair. She drew in a deep breath. "Joel, you're doing great, aren't you? Fine then. Stay out here for the rest of your life." With that, she turned and stormed off. And just like that, the main character exited the stage, and all the little side characters who had come to watch the drama filed out behind her. Anthony was the last to leave. As he walked past me, he leaned in and whispered, "Joel, thank you. If it weren't for you, Joanna would never have seen how good I am." I didn't respond. "The things you're so proud of, they're just the trash I threw away. You like picking up trash? Be my guest." After they were gone, I picked up the groceries and headed to the house across from the Moo estate. Inside, a woman was on a video call. The moment she saw me, she muted it and ran straight into my arms with a bright smile. "Took you long enough," she said. "I'm starving." Chapter 4. I smiled and pulled her into my arms. "I've been out working all day, and you didn't even think to cook me a nice meal to reward me?" I said. The woman scrunched her little nose and answered with an innocent look. "But I don't know how to cook. How about some instant noodles instead?" I turned around, bent down, and pinched her nose lightly. "You little rascal. When have you ever cooked in this house?" Then I paused. "I heard some noise outside just now. What happened?" Thinking about what had just taken place, my eyes dimmed a little. Joanna showed up, said she came to take me back. I gave her a lesson instead. Hearing that, her brows drew together. "That girl, Joanna. Good that you gave her a piece of your mind. Someone needs to teach her manners." I raised an eyebrow and studied her face. "That's it." She only smiled, her fingers tracing slow, lazy circles over my chest. "I know all about your past with her. Sure, I get a little jealous sometimes. But you're here with me now, and that's all that matters." As she spoke, her lips were already brushing against mine. Her kiss was gentle, almost like water, soft and unhurried, melting me bit by bit and pulling me deeper into her warmth. The next time I saw Joanna was a month later, at Gabriel's engagement party. He's my best friend, and he made a special trip to the countryside just to invite me. I couldn't refuse, so I agreed to go. Seeing Joanna and Anthony there didn't surprise me. The moment Gabriel noticed them, he pulled me behind him like a mother hen protecting her chick and had Angelica go deal with them. Angelica, his fiancée, was also one of Joanna's friends. Gabriel dragged me off to a corner and said in a low voice, "Joel, I'm so sorry. I forgot they'd be here too." I smiled and shook my head. After all those years at the Moo house, our social circles overlapped. It was normal they would show up. "It's fine. I stopped caring a long time ago," I reassured him. "Besides, I'm married now." Gabriel froze, his eyes widening. "You're married? Since when? And how come I didn't know?" 6 months ago." He stared at me for a few seconds, then suddenly broke into a grin. "That's my guy. I knew it. Someone like you, no way you'd give up an entire forest just for one rotten tree like Joanna. That's how it should be. Women like her? Not worth it." He gave me a playful punch in the chest. I knew he was truly happy for me. When Anthony first appeared back then, Gabriel had warned me more than once, but I refused to listen. I was determined to crash into that wall headfirst. Now I had finally let go. After we shared a laugh, he shot me a mock glare. "Then why didn't you bring your wife for me to meet? Don't tell me you don't think of me as a real brother." "She's on a business trip," I said with an apologetic smile. "She won't be back till tonight. I'll bring her next time. We'll treat you to dinner." Gabriel nodded, satisfied. Then, without warning, he grabbed my arm, dragged me into the center of the crowd, picked up the microphone, and drew everyone's attention. With a wide grin, he announced, "Everyone, I have another great announcement to make today." He pulled me up beside him and introduced me formally. "This is my good friend, Joel. And guess what? He's married. Let's all give him a big round of applause." The moment his words landed, the room fell silent. Most of the guests were from our shared social circle. Many of them knew that Joanna Moo's fiancé was named Joel, but no one had ever heard that Joanna got married. Gabriel, always a troublemaker, glanced around and joked, "What? My brother gets married and you're not even happy for him?" People snapped out of it and quickly filled the silence with laughter and applause. "Of course we're happy. Overjoyed. Congratulations. Wishing you 100 years of happiness and a baby soon." Amid the crowd's blessings, I simply nodded with a faint smile. That was when Anthony walked up to me, holding a glass of wine, concern written plainly across his face. Joel, you've been living out in the countryside for the past 2 years. Now you're suddenly getting married. Are you sure you're not being scammed by some shady people out there? I know you're still upset that Joanna sent you away, but she did it for your own good. You're still young. Don't let your emotions cloud your judgment. Marriage is a big deal. You have to be cautious. I couldn't help cutting him off. Anthony, don't you think you're meddling a bit too much? Even if I were marrying a pig, it's none of your damn business. I really hated him. He clearly didn't like me, yet he always put on that concerned act. Back at the Moo household, he was exactly the same. Over time, I became the black sheep of the family. No one liked me. Meanwhile, he became everyone's golden boy, the perfect gentleman, warm and considerate. I had seen through that performance long ago. It was just boring now. Anthony's face darkened at being interrupted, and right on cue, Joanna walked over. She stared at me for a long moment before finally saying, "Joel, that's enough." After the party, I stood alone by the roadside waiting for a ride when Joanna's car pulled up in front of me. Her expression was cold. "Get in." I shook my head. "No need. My wife's coming to pick me up." She let out a sneer. "Joel, how long are you planning to keep this act up?" she demanded. "Fooling others is one thing, but everyone in city and knows you've been hopelessly in love with me for years. You'd die for me. Someone like you, who the hell would ever want to marry you? Get in the car and I'll forget you snuck back into the city." Her tone was sharp, cutting. When I still didn't move, disgust flickered across her face. "Don't tell me you really became someone's side piece. Who would have such awful taste?" I gave her a faint smile. "Miss Moo, have you ever been someone's side piece? Otherwise, what makes you so sure that's what this is? Only people with filthy minds assume everyone else is dirty too." She looked as if she had just swallowed something rotten. Her glare could have burned through me. "Joel, what the hell happened to you?" Anyone watching might have thought she was the one wronged, the one heartbroken. But the truth is, I haven't changed at all. I was a mischievous kid growing up. My mom scolded me for it constantly. Even after I moved into the Moo household, my personality never really changed. I still remember the first time I talked back to someone in that house. Joanna was there, laughing. She said a real man should have backbone. That's what makes him attractive. Then Anthony appeared, and suddenly I was too immature, not steady enough. So I began sanding down my edges, swallowing my words, shrinking myself to fit what she wanted. But now I don't want to change for her anymore. Anthony had been sitting quietly in the front passenger seat the entire time, listening. When he noticed Joanna's expression, a faint smile passed through his eyes. Then he turned to me and said gently, "Joel, how can you talk to Joanna like that? She's only thinking of you. Shut up." I rolled my eyes and looked at him in disbelief. "Nobody asked you to speak. Just because you're quiet doesn't mean you're mute. This is between me and Joanna. What's it got to do with you?" He fell silent, clearly embarrassed, at a loss for words. Chapter 6. At that moment, a pink sports car pulled up behind us. Without sparing either of them another glance, I walked over and got in. Even over the engine's roar, I could still hear Joanna shouting behind me. That night, an unfamiliar number flashed on my phone. When I answered, it was Selena, Joanna's best friend. "Joel, what are you up to?" I turned off the music. "Putting the kid to bed." There was a pause. Then her voice came back, confused. "Putting a kid to bed? Like an actual human child?" I nodded instinctively, even though she couldn't see me. "What else would it be?" "Don't mess with me. Joanna was never pregnant. How could you possibly have a kid?" I replied calmly. "It's not like Joanna's the only woman in the world who can have a child with me." Her voice shot up. "No way. So you really got married? And you have a kid? Why? I'm not allowed to get married and have children. It's just, I thought you were engaged to Joanna all this time, and you've always been into her. How could you suddenly be married? You're faking it, right?" I let out a quiet laugh. Why did everyone think I was lying? Marriage isn't something I joke about. It's real, I said after a brief pause. When the wedding happens, I'll make sure you get an invite. The moment I finished speaking, a burst of noise exploded on her end, like people scrambling or arguing, and then the call disconnected. I didn't dwell on it. Joanna's so-called girlfriends had never liked me. Even when things were good between us, most of them thought I wasn't good enough for her. After Anthony showed up, their contempt only grew. I had overheard them mocking me more times than I could count. Not long after, another call came through. Joanna. One glance at the screen and I already knew what this was about. The second I answered, before I could say a word, she started shouting. Joel, tell me that kid isn't yours. I couldn't stop a small chuckle. Are you serious right now? Her voice rose even higher. Joel, I'm telling you, say that child isn't yours. She was practically screaming. Even without speakerphone, I was certain anyone nearby could hear her. I pulled the phone slightly away from my ear and said coolly, if that's all you called for, I'm hanging up. Did you not ing hear what I said? Where the hell are you right now? After so many years, I'd seen every version of Joanna's temper. Her shouting didn't shake me anymore. She kept going, her voice sharp and frantic. Then suddenly, someone reached from behind and took the phone from my hand. Amelia's soft voice came through next. Joel's going to sleep with me now. If you've got something to say, save it for another time. She didn't wait for a reply before ending the call. I turned my head and met a pair of bright, mischievous eyes. She jumped into my arms, rubbing her face lightly against my neck. Her skin still carried the scent of her shower gel, a fresh peach fragrance that lingered between us. You better work harder, she whispered softly, or you won't have any kids to tuck in next time. I laughed, slipping an arm around her and holding her close. I was just talking nonsense. Amelia leaned in, brushing a light kiss against my lips, and murmured, not for long. Chapter 7. 3 days later, I went back to the Moo household. Amelia came with me to visit Grandpa Moo. He was the one who brought me into the Moo family all those years ago, and he had always treated me like his own grandson. But in recent years, his health had declined badly. Most of the time, he stayed overseas for treatment. This trip home was for his 80th birthday. I heard that once the celebration was over, he would be heading abroad again. After we finished seeing Grandpa Moo, Amelia received a call and stepped out to the back garden. I stayed behind, waiting quietly in a corner. I thought you'd never come back. I turned at the sound of the voice. Joanna had somehow come up behind me. Her pretty face looked cold and distant as she stared at me. I ignored the frost in her expression and smiled lightly. Of course I'd come back. It's Grandpa's birthday, and I brought my wife to meet him too. She looked at me icily. What now? Got some new tricks? Have you spent the past few years in the countryside plotting how to piss me off? Let me make something clear. Stop dreaming. I will never marry you. I'm going to tell Grandpa right now. We're canceling the engagement. Her gaze shifted past me and she sneered. What? Didn't bring the illegitimate child that old woman gave you? You honestly disgust me. Get out of the Moo house right now. Just as her words landed, a soft, lazy voice drifted over. Oh, the Moo family's eldest daughter certainly thinks highly of herself. I had no idea the entire Moo estate was under your command. Joanna's body went rigid. She turned stiffly toward the voice. Aunt! Amelia walked up beside me, took my hand in hers, and looked straight at her niece. I wouldn't dare call myself your aunt, especially since you just tried to throw your uncle out of the house. Joanna's face drained of color. Her eyes dropped to our joined hands. When she spoke again, her voice trembled. You said he's my uncle? Joel? And you? Amelia gave her a brief glance, her tone now sharper, colder. He's your uncle, and that's how you speak to him? Calling him by name like that? Joanna's face turned ashen, but she recovered quickly. For the rest of the family dinner, she remained calm and composed, as if nothing had happened earlier at all. When the banquet ended, Amelia went to get the car while I waited at the front gate. As I stood there, Joanna suddenly appeared and pulled me into a quiet corner. Her gaze was icy, her voice tight with suppressed anger. "Joel, you did this on purpose, didn't you? You and my aunt, you're putting on a show just to get at me, aren't you?" I looked at her. "You're overthinking it. If this were just for show, I wouldn't have brought her here." Back when Joanna's parents divorced, the fallout between the two families had been ugly. If it weren't for me, Amelia would never have willingly returned here. And Grandpa Moo had always genuinely cared for me. No matter what, I would never lie to him. Joanna knew all of this. She was simply too angry to think clearly. She let out a cold laugh. "So this is revenge, huh? You're getting back at me for choosing Anthony and dumping you in the countryside. Joel, I told you if you behaved, you would have become my husband one day. What the hell are you doing now?" Chapter 8. When I saw the redness in her eyes, I suddenly remembered the day Anthony first came to the Moo household. Joanna had promised me that not even 10,000 Anthonys could compare to me. She said I would always be the one she loved most. But after that, she kept defending him and scolding me again and again. In the end, she even hit me. Even now, I can still hear the crisp sound of that jade bracelet shattering against the floor. It was just like my heart breaking into pieces. I looked away, my eyes resting on the bright flowers blooming not far from us. "Joanna, the moment you stood in front of Anthony to shield him, that was when you should have realized there was no future for us. I'm not the kind of person who can just forgive and forget. We're like that shattered jade bracelet. Once broken, we can never go back. Now I'm married to Amelia. You have Anthony by your side. Let's each move on with our own lives." Something flickered across her face. She went quiet for a moment, then said, "Joel, are you really this heartless? I do have feelings for you. Really. I just felt sorry for Anthony. He lost both his parents." Her voice shook, as if she were barely holding herself together. I let out a bitter laugh. "So Anthony is pitiful because he lost his parents? What about me? I lost both my parents when I was 5. And at 10, the grandfather who raised me passed away too. Wasn't I pitiful? How biased did she have to be to say something like that? If she truly cared about me, how could she have left me in the countryside for 3 years without a single visit or call?" I met her eyes and asked quietly, "Joanna, do you remember why I came to the Moo family in the first place?" Her body stiffened. The color drained from her face. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but no words came out. I didn't watch her expression. I simply rolled up my sleeve and showed her the scar on my arm. "You probably don't know this, but when you sent me away to the countryside, I fell into depression. I attempted suicide several times. There were so many moments I thought I wouldn't survive. But luckily I made it through. And I met someone who truly loves me." Just then, headlights flashed nearby. It was Amelia. "She's here. I'll be going now." Joanna lowered her head and said nothing. I gently pulled my arm free from her grip and walked away. It wasn't until the car had driven far down the road that my phone buzzed with a message from her. "Joel, you once said you'd only ever marry me in this life." Yes, I did say that. Back when I loved Joanna more than anything. Back when I truly believed I would marry her someday. Back when I believed she would only ever love me too. I made that promise with all my heart. But now I've broken it. Because you were the one who turned away first, Joanna. Chapter 9. I didn't reply. I just tossed my phone casually into the back seat. Amelia glanced at me from the corner of her eye. "Was that Joanna?" I nodded lightly. "Yeah. She's been ridiculous these past few years. Always acting like everything in the world belongs to her. She'll come to her senses eventually." I turned toward her with a faint smile. "What? You're not even jealous?" This woman had never been known for generosity. She once made me throw away every single thing I brought with me from the Moo house to the countryside. Amelia didn't answer right away. Instead, she suddenly pulled the car over into a quiet, hidden spot. She leaned in, bit down on my lip, and growled in that sharp, sultry voice of hers. "Who told me to fall in love with you? If I love you, I've got to accept all your baggage too. Besides, I'm your wife now. I'm not letting you go anywhere." I smiled and kissed her back. Not only would she never lose me, I would never lose her either. After that day, I didn't see Joanna again. Gabriel invited me out to play basketball. While we were resting on the sidelines, he couldn't help talking trash about her. Joanna's nuts, man. Something's seriously off in her head. Angelica said that on the night of my engagement party, she went to some bar and trashed the whole place out of nowhere. Anyone who didn't know better would have thought she was secretly in love with me. He laughed at his own joke, then grew a little more serious. Haven't seen her in a while though. A few days ago, Anthony was even asking Angelica if she'd heard from Joanna. Where do you think she ran off to? I casually bounced the basketball against the ground. Who knows? That night, I was ambushed in front of my house. Joanna stood in my path, the smell of alcohol heavy on her. Joel, I had a nightmare last night, she slurred. I dreamt you got married. And you married my aunt. Tell me it's not true. Please. You said you'd marry me. You said you'd only ever love me. There's no way you'd marry someone else. I stared at her in silence and took out my phone to call Amelia. Before the call even connected, Joanna suddenly snatched the phone from my hand and smashed it onto the ground. Her eyes were red. Joel, say it. Say you only love me. Say you'll only ever marry me. Say it. Say you and Amelia are just lying to everyone. Say it's all fake. Okay? She slowly dropped to her knees in front of me, her voice shaking with desperation, almost like she was begging. I had never seen Joanna like this before. She looked like she really loved me. If this had been the past, I would have pulled her into my arms, kissed her cheeks, and whispered softly to comfort her. But now everything was different. I looked down at her, my voice calm and distant. Joanna, if you want to play the part of the heartbroken lover, go find Anthony. I don't need it. Her head hung low, her face hidden from view. After a long silence, she finally spoke, her voice quiet. Joel, I know I was wrong. I went to the countryside these past few days. I visited every place you lived during those 3 years. I even met your old therapist. I know I hurt you, but if you can give me a chance, I want to make it right. I'll go anywhere with you, somewhere no one knows us, just the two of us. I'll be the woman who loves you more than anyone in the world. Please, Brother Joey. Hearing her call me Brother Joey made my heart jolt for a brief second. Ever since Anthony showed up, she had stopped calling me that. From then on, it had only been Joel, cold and distant. Now she said it again. But it didn't bring me any happiness. Not even a little. No, I said quietly. What we had is over. Just like that jade bracelet of mine. It shattered long ago. With that, I stepped past her, ready to leave. She grabbed my hand without saying a word, but I could feel her fingers trembling. I didn't respond. Instead, my eyes lifted to the person walking toward us, and a slow smile spread across my face. Amelia approached, her expression cold. The first thing she did was pull Joanna's hand off my arm. Then she yanked her up from the ground and slapped her across the face. Joanna, I'm letting this slide for now because you're my niece, but don't let me see you again. And stop chasing after my husband. Next time I won't be so polite. Amelia wiped her hand as if brushing off dust, then came over and took mine, leading me home. Behind us, Joanna collapsed onto the ground like a discarded rag, not moving at all. After that, she never came looking for me again. The next time I saw her was at a symposium. She looked noticeably thinner, Anthony standing beside her. I gave them a polite nod and went to find my seat without saying a word. When I left the venue later, I could feel her eyes on me the entire time. During intermission, Anthony came over. Joel, since you've already married Joanna's aunt, can you please stay away from her? Stop finding excuses to get close, all right? Do you even know what she's been through these past few days? She nearly lost her life because of you. I looked up at him, the same self-righteous, insufferable expression as always. Anthony, what she chooses to do has nothing to do with me, I said coolly. Besides, I was invited to this event by the organizers. I don't have the power to just show up uninvited. This symposium was hosted by a government department. Only people who had made real contributions in their fields were invited. Unless Anthony was completely clueless, he should have understood I wasn't here by accident. His expression stiffened as realization dawned. He hesitated, clearly wanting to say more. But I wasn't Joanna. I had no reason to indulge him. And by the way, I added, my tone sharp, I'm Joanna's uncle-in-law. Since you're her friend, that technically makes me your elder. Did no one ever teach you how to speak to your elders? His face went rigid. He wasn't stupid, just used to looking down on me. So used to it that he spoke without restraint. He bit his lip and stood there for a long time, but he still couldn't bring himself to call me uncle-in-law. When he noticed the faint smile on my face, his expression turned ugly. Joel, what are you so proud of? You wouldn't even be here if it weren't for Amelia. You think that makes you special? You married her just because her family's rich. Don't think I don't know that. I didn't respond. Instead, I looked past his shoulder. Joanna. Perfect timing. Come get your guy out of here. Anthony stiffened and turned around. Joanna was standing behind him, her face dark with anger. Flustered, he opened his mouth to explain. But before he could say a word, Joanna grabbed him hard and dragged him toward the exit. As I watched him leave, I felt a slight twinge of regret. He wouldn't get to see me invited on stage as a distinguished guest speaker, which meant he still didn't understand one simple truth. I never needed anyone to prop me up. I was my own support. In the second half of the symposium, the organizers invited me to give a speech. The moment I stood, I felt a pair of eyes fixed on me. The gaze followed me all the way to the podium. I didn't look for it. I simply began. Hello, everyone. My name is Joel. When I finished my final sentence, the room erupted into thunderous applause. I smiled lightly and looked out over the audience. By chance, my eyes met Joanna's. There was something different in her gaze, something I had never seen before. Awe, even admiration. I acted as if I hadn't noticed and turned away. When the event ended, she moved against the crowd and stopped in front of me. She looked at me for a long time before speaking. Joel, I didn't expect you to become someone like this. I met her eyes calmly. I owe it to you, really. 3 years ago, when I was sent to the countryside, I was completely alone. In the first year, I fell into depression. I even attempted suicide. The last time I was hospitalized, I shared a room with someone who loved filming everything. She said she wanted to record all the beauty in the world, so it wouldn't feel like her life had been wasted. In that moment, something shifted inside me. I started filming too, trying to capture everything beautiful around me. Through those videos, I began discovering the richness of traditional culture and forgotten craftsmanship. They were fighting too, trying not to be forgotten, trying to stay alive in a world moving too fast. Just like me, searching for a reason to keep going. That's how I began incorporating intangible cultural heritage into my videos. At first, I only wanted to preserve them, because once something is forgotten, it truly disappears. But to my surprise, the videos started gaining attention. I became a modestly successful content creator. A year later, I met Amelia. She had fallen ill and returned to the countryside to recover. At the time, I was still living in the old Moo estate, filming small moments of daily life. One day, during a heavy snowfall, she suddenly appeared in front of my lens. She saw the camera but didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled. She said, "You must be that video guy. I'm Amelia. I've wanted to meet you for a long time." Later, she traveled the country with me. We explored traditional arts and heritage together. During an episode about handcrafted phoenix coronets, I proposed to her. Thinking back, I smiled faintly. Joanna caught that smile, and for a brief second her expression softened, something nostalgic flickering through it, touched with sorrow. I had no idea what was going through her mind, and honestly, I didn't want to know. I straightened the wind-blown hem of my coat, ready to leave. Just as I stepped aside to pass her, she suddenly reached out her hand. I instinctively took a small step back, and then I saw what she was holding. A jade bracelet, It looked almost exactly like the one my parents had left me. I searched everywhere for this jade bracelet, she said. Doesn't it look a lot like yours? There was a trace of hope in her voice. But I wasn't looking at the bracelet. I was looking at the scar on her wrist. A scar that looked so much like mine. She followed my gaze and gave a bitter smile. I guess there's at least one thing we still have in common. I lifted my eyes to hers and let out a quiet sigh. Joanna, you know the truth. What we had ended 3 years ago. Everything you're doing now, it only feels like a burden to me. So please, stop showing up in my life. With each word I spoke, the color slowly drained from her face. When I finished, I didn't look at her again. I simply walked past her without hesitation. Behind me, I heard the sharp sound of jade striking the ground, followed by the muffled sound of someone trying desperately not to cry. From that day on, I truly never saw Joanna again. Even when I returned to the Moo residence to visit Grandpa, I didn't run into her. Anthony wasn't there either. Later, I learned that Anthony had moved out of the Moo house, Joanna's decision. She had cut off all contact with him. Anthony kept trying to find her, searching everywhere. A few times, he even came looking for me. But each time, within minutes, someone would appear and forcibly take him away. I asked Amelia if she had anything to do with it. She said no. I thought life would just continue like that, quiet, uneventful. But I never expected that one day, I would hear news about Joanna in such a way. Her best friend called me. Her voice was trembling with anger. She told me that for the past half year, Joanna had been drinking heavily, rarely sober. 2 nights ago, she had suddenly woken up and insisted she had to find me. That very night, she got into a car accident. She survived, but her leg was seriously injured. The doctors said she might never walk again. We tried to stop her, Selena said, her voice hoarse. But we couldn't. She was crying. She said that tomorrow was your birthday, and that she had already missed the last 3. She said she couldn't miss this one too. She cried so hard. It broke our hearts to see her like that. If we had known, we never would have let her keep spiraling. She did all of this because of you. Amelia was curled up in my arms. When she heard the voice coming from the phone, she looked up at me quietly. I reached out and gently pinched her cheek, then ended the call without saying a word. She tilted her head and kissed my chin, whispering softly, "This isn't your fault. I knew that." And yet, the whole thing felt absurd. When she had stood by my side, she hadn't known how to cherish me. Now that she was gone, what was the point of pretending she ever had? Affection that comes too late is worth less than dirt. I had always understood that, so I never went to see her. Half a month later, in the middle of the night, I received a text. From Joanna. "Joel, I'm sorry." I didn't reply, because our story had already ended. From now on, I would remain untouched by spring and autumn, detached from romance and all the beauty this world tries to offer.